Hello. So, I have chosen Where the Sidewalk Ends by Shel Silverstein. And I knew I would pick it as soon as I saw that we could use poems in poetry books that we have at home. I chose this poem because I would read it often when I was little, and I've always felt like there was a deeper meaning to it all. The full poem is in the description of the video if you want to follow along. But introduction aside, here it is. Where the Sidewalk Ends by Shel Silverstein. There is a place where the sidewalk ends, and before the street begins. And there the grass grows soft and white, and there the sun burns crimson bright. And there the moonbird rests from his flight, to cool in the peppermint wind. Let us leave this place where the smoke blows black, and the dark street winds and bends. Past the pits where the asphalt flowers grow, we shall walk with a walk that is measured and slow, and watch where the chalk-white arrows go to the place where the sidewalk ends. Yes, we'll walk with a walk that is measured and slow, and we'll go where the chalk-white arrows go. For the children they mark and the children they know the place where the sidewalk ends. Now in line 5, Silverstein references the moonbird, and after a quick research, I found out that a moonbird is a type of migratory bird that has traveled over 400 kilometers over its lifetime, which is equivalent to the distance from the Earth to the Moon. So that's a little fun fact for you. Now, the level of the diction in this poem is a fairly formal English, as it's aimed for children. And the thematic concept of the poem is about childhood, whereas the thematic statement is more about the loss of said childhood, or going back to revisit your childhood and trying to live it out again. Now, the title, Where the Sidewalk Ends. It tells us that this poem will be somewhat strange, or out of reality, since the sidewalk never really ends. In fact, it's almost as if it's telling us that it's the end of something that should never really finish, since sidewalks mostly just go around in loops around a block. And the title gives us directly the main subject of the poem, but this very subject also has great symbolism, which I will explain further on. And so, the speaker seems to be an adult, because he says, "For the children they mark and the children they know." So, meaning he's directly talking about the children, meaning he's not a child himself. We also know that this adult wants to find the place where the sidewalk ends, and they seem to be talking to a group of people to convince them to come with them. They seem hopeful to find this mysterious place. I do not believe that the speaker is Silverstein himself, but I do think that he's projecting his thoughts onto the speaker. As the speaker rallies his crowd, it seems like they are trying to escape a dark place, with "Let us leave this place where the smoke blows black," and they seem to be leaving it to find a better one, with the line, "And there the grass grows soft and white." Structurally, the poem is divided into 2 sestets and 1 quatrain. The first sestet describes the place where the sidewalk ends, while the second sestet describes the place where the adults are now. As for the quatrain, it mostly describes the journey that the adults will take to go to the place where the sidewalk ends. So it's all about the there, the here, and the bridge in between. Now, the rhythm of the poem is very interesting, because the verse, "We shall walk with a walk that is measured and slow," which appears twice during the poem, forces us to say it in a measured and slow manner. And the repetition of the sounds, with "we shall walk with a walk," this repetition forces us to say it in a measured and slow manner. And it gives us a specific rhythm to follow. Now, the rhyming pattern in the sestets are A, B, C, 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 B. And as for the quatrain, it is D, D, E. No, sorry, D, 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 E. It's an extra D. This gives this slightly monotonous poem a light melody to it. As for internal rhymes, this poem has a few, but only with the repetition of words inside the line, like walk and children. Now, the rhymes definitely have a symbolism, because rhymes in the first stanza, like begins, white, bright, and flight, are all rather positive words, whereas the ones in the second stanza are more negative, with black, bends, ends, and slow. So, now I have mentioned at the beginning that the theme of the poem is childhood, and more particularly the end of it. I believe that the sidewalk represents your childhood, especially with the chalk white arrows, as children often draw on the sidewalk with chalks. As for where the sidewalk ends, that's the imaginary world where kids have fun. The soft white grass and the crimson sun are indicators of this, because they are described as having strange colors. White grass doesn't really exist, and crimson is a very purplish red, not at all like the sun. And this is further proven by the peppermint winds that just seem too good to be true. So if the sidewalk is the childhood, then the adults are leaving their smoke-filled adult lives to return a bit to their childhood fantasy worlds and take a break from their hard lives. And these adults are symbolized by the moonbird, who rests there after a long and tiresome journey, which in this case is his migration. Now, this theme is rather hidden in the poem, mostly because such a deep theme wouldn't really work in a children's book, and that's why it is Shel Silverstein hid it in just such a fun little imagery.